Hello everyone, welcome. It is Tuesday the 21st of January, or episode 12, depending on when you are listening to these. You might even be listening to them in a completely different order, which is absolutely fine because none of them sort of link in with each other. Not only are they sort of part of a weekly routine, they're standalone quizzes as well. So thank you for joining me this morning. I've got another 5 questions for you coming up shortly. There's some geography, there's a cartoon character, there's a bit of history, there's a couple of bits of history actually, well, a person question and a history question, and another music question in there as well. Now, I did ask yesterday about whether or not it would be good to put in some sort of music questions where you've got to work out maybe the TV theme tune or the song from the music. Now, I did, after I recorded that, I then thought, I'm not 100% sure because if it would work, because obviously YouTube will shout at me for copyright reasons, so I'll have to look into it. And I did ask for your feedback, and I'm assuming there's going to be lots of feedback going what the right answer is to that question, and now I've kind of kiboshed it by thinking, it will work on the podcast platforms, but it won't work on YouTube because I get shouted at. But I'll think about it for. I haven't got it in for this week. I've already written this week's questions, but I'll think about it for future weeks. And don't forget, I also mentioned yesterday that I'm looking into the way of getting some of you to come and join me on the podcast as well. It would be lovely to sort of rekindle that Radio 2 spirit. And have some of you playing along live as I record it, and then having a bit of a chat with you as well. So I think that would be, I'm looking into how logistically I can do that. So keep your eyes posted on my socials and also in the podcast as well. And I'll, once I've got all the logistics sorted, I'll let you know how you can get involved. Some very, very, very good scores last week, and a complete mixed bag, to be honest. But the one thing that did stand out for me, and I'll go through some of these on other episodes as well, I like the fact that Phil and Tracy are doing this quiz, and you're probably sat down right now doing this as well, with their evening meal. I think it was one of the episodes last week, it was satay beans on toast. So yeah, hopefully you've got a nice meal in front of you today. You might also be doing it with a nice meal, who knows, but do keep those comments coming because they're absolutely brilliant, and I love the way it's slotted into so many of yours daily routines as well. But yeah, enjoy your meal. If you need the salt, it's just on the left hand side of the table. There you go. Right, let's get into today's quiz then. 5 questions as always for you. We'll kick off then with this for question number 1. What is the capital of Portugal? You might be groaning, potentially thinking, that's a bit easy. You might also be going, I don't know my capital cities. I don't know. But it balances out. Question number 2. Scrappy is the nephew of which cartoon character? So Scrappy is the nephew of which cartoon character? I really want to do my impression of the answer, but if I do, I'll give the answer away, so I'm not. That makes a change, me not giving an answer away. Number 3 this morning. Which wordsmith was described as a national poet and the Bard of Avon? So which wordsmith was described as a national poet and the Bard of Avon? Question number 4. The Gunpowder Plot occurred in which century? So the Gunpowder Plot occurred in which century? And your final question for this morning, another song to get stuck in your head. Unaware, but underlined. I figured out this story. It wasn't good. But in the corner of my mind, I celebrated glory. So name the song from those. I'll give you it again before you start singing it and getting it stuck in your head. Unaware, but underlined. I figured out this story. It wasn't good. But in the corner of my mind, I celebrated glory. Kind of fits in quite well with JDQ, to be honest, but Okay, there we go. That is all of your questions then for today for episode 12, 5, 10, 11. Yeah, for episode 12. So answers coming up then in a short moment's time after the countdown. So make sure you've got them either written down or locked in your head. Or if you're eating your dinner, you might be spelling out the answers with alphabet soup or alphabites. I mean, it's entirely up to you. Loads of different options. But whatever it is, however you've got your answers, make sure you've got them locked down and ready to go. And they will come up after Countdown Man.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Okay, so let's see how you did with the 5 questions this on this 21st of January. Your first question today then was, what is the capital of Portugal? It is Lisbon. Question number 2, Scrappy is the new, start again, Jay. Scrappy is the nephew of which cartoon character? It is Scooby-Dooby-Doo. Oh, that's poor. Yeah, no, that's probably why I don't do impressions. But it is Scooby-Doo. Scooby. No, doesn't work. Number 3, which wordsmith was described as a national poet and the Bard of Avon? It was William Shakespeare. And I doff my cap and thank you, William Shakespeare. Because of your writing, you gave me a debut on stage. So thank you for that. Number 4, the gunpowder plot occurred in which century? It was the 17th century. And number 5, unaware, but underlined. I figured out this story. It wasn't good. But in the corner of my mind, I celebrated glory. The song is Back for Good. Unaware, but underlined. I figured out the story. It wasn't good. So there we go. That is all of your questions for today. I've got to stop singing. I've always been so musical that I'll just, yeah, I'm one of these people that you'll hear something and there's a song in there somewhere based on it. But anyway, right, that is your questions for today. So lock in those answers. How have you done out of 5? Your tiebreaker question. So I mentioned this yesterday's podcast. When I get the leaderboards and everything up and running, you'll need to make sure that you've got an answer for the tiebreaker, because you'll need that to enter it into the website to then, for to help me break down the leaderboard. So the tiebreaker today is this. The majority of scholars agree that William Shakespeare wrote how many plays? So the majority of scholars agree that William Shakespeare wrote how many plays? As always, if you're playing this in a competitive sense, nearest to it gets the point. Yes, indeed. Okay, answers locked in. There we go. It is 38. 38. Yeah, there is some debate around it. That it could have been up as high as sort of 41, 42. But the majority of scholars, those very intelligent people, have agreed that it is 38 that he wrote. I wonder if he's taking credit for like some Thomas Marlowe stuff, or Christopher Marlowe, not Thomas Marlowe, Christopher Marlowe. I don't know. Anyway, that is all of your questions and your tiebreaker for today for episode 12. Thank you very much for being here as always. Just want to address one very quick thing before I send you on your way on this podcast. You may have noticed that there are now ads at the beginning and the end of the podcast. It does help support what I do, because when I was on Radio 2, I was very lucky to be paid for doing what I was doing on Radio 2, and then coming onto the coming away from Radio 2 onto podcast. I'm currently not, and I'll be honest, even though there are ads at the front and back end of the podcast, yeah, I think one day last week it was 3 pence. You can't even get pick a mix for 3 pence anymore. But yeah, so there are ads, and it does help. It will help once it gets properly up and running. That it will help support what I do with the podcasts and the work that goes into it. I did have the option to put ads in the middle, which they say that is the most that's the highest earning point for podcasts, is having an ad in the middle. I have chosen not to do that because I don't want to disrupt the flow of how the podcast runs. So there will be an ad at the beginning, there will be an ad at the end. You can skip them and stuff like that. But yeah, I have no plans. So rest assured, there are no plans to ruin the flow of it by putting one in the middle. It will always stay as it is. So yeah, I could quite easily have, but then I'd just ruin it and then no one will be listening. So I've stuck with what I've gone. That's my plan, and that's what it is. So rest assured, no extra ads other than the beginning and end. That is it from me then. I will see you all soon. As always, for me, take care and stay safe.